Black Politics Today. An eye for what's at stake in global politics and your source for the social, economic, and political impact of public policy on the African American community. Your host, Kelly Michael Williams, is a political strategy veteran with an undefeated campaign record and the political experience that spans nearly 3 decades, from Mayor Willie Brown in California to President Barack Obama in our nation's capital. So get ready for a fresh and honest approach on the politics that affect you and your family the most. Now, your host, Kelly Michael Williams.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Kelly Michael Williams. Thank you very much for joining us tonight for What's at Stake right here on Black Politics Today. Let me ask you guys a question. I feel like asking a question tonight to get everything started and moving. And you can comment. I mean, you can post your response in the comment sections on Facebook or YouTube. If you're joining us on Blog Talk Radio or blackpoliticstoday.com, you can give us a call at 516-590-0143. That's 516-590-0143. And you can hit us up and let us know what you think. But my question is this, and I'm trying to find out if many of you are out there are like me. Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? I just want to know, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? And do the actions of the GOP legislatures and governors across this country, do they piss you off like they piss me off? Do they just make you want to go slap somebody because they just get on your nerves with the lies, the hypocrisy, and then primarily everything that they're doing to us, Black and brown? Because if you're Black and brown, I got to ask you, are you tired of being targeted? You know that every single thing that they are doing today is done to target us. They are God fearful of the fact that they're going to be in a minority. They are, and it's not for an election, it's for a lifetime. They are like seriously upset, scared, don't know what to do, because they're like, H to the nah, we cannot let Black and brown folks take over, because they're going to do to us what we've been doing to them for 300 years. And they scared to death. They are like, oh, hell no, nah, we can't have this happen. No way, we can't do it. And so I'm just trying to find out, are you guys as upset, angry, pissed off to the highest level of festivity that is like, we got to do something about this. We have to really stop this. They are targeting us in every aspect. If we go shopping, we get the police called on us. We walking down the street, the police are called on us. We checking on rental property, they call the police. We jogging down the street in the neighborhood and we get shot and killed. Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired and told to wait? It's not your turn yet. It's not ready. We're not ready for you. Later, it'll come. Or as we was told even by by the president, let's just organize and it'll be okay. We'll get through voting rights and we'll get through voting issues. Just organize. We've been organizing since the 1964, 65 Civil Rights Act. It's like we've been organizing and organizing and organizing. And still, we're just getting a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. But now we're getting pushed way the hell back. And so it's like, what's going on? Because I'm sick and tired of lazy behind people talking about bipartisanship, like, especially in the Senate. I'm specifically talking about the Senate. Like, that's really going to work. I don't remember anything that the GOP did from 16 to 20 or even 16 to 18 that was bipartisan. There was certainly nothing that the Senate did from 16 to 20 that was bipartisan. So help me understand, what the heck are we waiting for, Joe Manchin, Christian Cinema? Because trust you me, if I can find somebody to run against your behind, I certainly will. And I wouldn't care if they were Republican. I would support them. Yeah, I said it. Okay. Because I'd rather know that I got a crow in the nest than think that I got a dove back there that's going to be on my side, when truly, here you are now coming out saying that you're not going to support the 3.5 trillion that you said you were if you got the bipartisan deal. Now you backpedaling saying, no, it's too much, I can't support that. But you had no problem supporting $2 trillion to the richest people in America. No problem whatsoever. Yeah. Just wait till 2022, buddy. All right. I think you're up in 22. It might be 24. I don't care. Whenever it is, I'm going to find somebody to come out there and take care of your behind. Because they're just ticking me off, pissing me off to no realm of understanding. These test tube babies have got to go. They have got to go. It's no other way. We need national Democrats to have some backbone like the Texas Democrats did. Texas Democrats, regardless of what ultimately happened, at least they put it on the line. They got in their cars, they got on planes, they rode out of town on their horses, bareback, or whatever it was. They got ghosts and they left. And they didn't do it just once. They did it twice. They did it twice. They said, yeah, you may get it because you have the numbers, but you're going to have to wait for it. You're going to have to fight for it. And you're going to have to do everything you can to get it. And quite frankly, there should have been, like a campaign to raise money for them so that they can stay out longer, because most of them had families and everything else and they couldn't do that. And then the governor was threatening to hold their pay back and all this other stuff. So they literally stayed out of the state for 30 days to try to do something. They came to DC thinking they were going to get some help, and they ran into Manchin and Cinema, and they behinds were like, well, yeah, but we can't do anything about the filibuster because, that's a rule and rules are meant to be followed. Slap them. You know what I really want to say? You know what I really want to say. Okay. But they need to, yeah, they just need it. They need it. They need it. They need it. I commend the Texas Democrats. I appreciate them because they showed Washington what they should have been doing, what they should do in times when Republicans are trying to force something down their throat and they can't do it and they need the votes to do it. Because Republicans clearly do what they do to the Democrats every single time. I'm just sick and tired of it. But Texas told Greta Abbott and Speaker Dave Palin or whatever his name was, hey, sit back and wait, buddy. We're not coming, you're not getting this easy. You're not getting this easy. And they got on the road trip, packed their bags, and they left. Unfortunately, they came to DC and they didn't get anything from DC, which is terrible because they put everything on the line and DC should have done something. The House should have passed something while they were here. The Senate should have put something on the floor, whether it passed or not, at least get the Republicans on the record. And that's the one thing that just is mind-boggling to me. We never put them on the record for their vote to make them defend what they're doing. They don't do it. And I'm just like, they're here, put them on the record, whether it passes or not. Put them on the record so you can at least create a narrative, a message for your supporters and the rest of the American people to know exactly what they're obstructing. They have a better message machine than Democrats have ever had. And Democrats still sitting on their behind talking about, well, we're going to work it out. We're confident it's going to pass. Where the hell are they going to find 10 Republicans to vote for any voting rights bill? Let alone an infrastructure that's got 3.5 trillion that's going to black and brown people and poor white folks. They're not going to do it. Now, if it's going to rich white folks, corporations, sure, we'll do that. Absolutely. Where do I sign? And Joe Manchin and Sinema is right on their coattail. They have no problem doing that. And that is what bothers me the most. Texas, you know, we got to do something with Texas. It's not a large margin, but unfortunately, because of gerrymandering and reapportionment, because people didn't think about that in 2020, they didn't pay attention to that in 2020. So you got states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, um, and Texas that were like small margins, like 5 to 6 seats in each branch, each house, each in the House or the Senate, and they sat on their behinds and ended up losing that. Even if they got a Democratic governor, it's going to go to court or something's going to happen. But the legislature's in charge. They're likely going to get most of what they want, and in Texas, they're going to get all what they want. They're going to get it all, and that's what bothers me. That's the problem we have, and that's where we're ending up tonight. And it just irks me to no end. Um, the narrow margin that they have, um, the voting rights issue, all those things that there are going on in Texas as well as other places, but we focusing on Texas tonight. It's like there has to be something, and they have to do something. And I'm praying and hoping that there's enough Democrats in the state of Texas that are pissed off enough to say, you know what, you're taking my voting rights, you're taking women's rights, you're mandating doing these COVID mandates, and everybody's getting sick and dying. And now today, I find out that they just signed a bill for cash bail. You can't get out of jail unless you got cash. You know who that's for. Okay, we know who that's for. Or if you got a bond, no, you got to come up with cash. So if you get arrested for a quote unquote violent crime, you got to come up with cash bail. Whereas before, they would let you bail out, put you on an ankle monitor, you roll, you get back, come back to court, you do your trial, you do whatever, right? Now that ain't happening. So tonight's focus on Texas because they've been trying to do some bleepity bleep. And tonight we're going to highlight those bleeps. So let me apologize in the beginning if I bleep and I forget to bleep myself, because tonight, whoo, Jesus, tonight I'm gonna need Jesus. Okay. So for those of you who are praying folks out there, pray for me as I pray for myself. Because I'm so sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I'm telling you, people, call your friends, call Pookie, call Ray Ray. I don't care what they did. I don't care why they did it. Tell them butts to register to vote. Tell them to get out there and vote for the first time, then fourth time, or the 100th time. I don't care what it is, but tell them to get out there and do it, because 2022, we are going to see a devastation like none other. And it literally is going to take 10 years to overcome and recover. And the reality of it is that it's going to probably take longer than that, because in those 10 years, if the gerrymandering and all the things that go into place go into effect, what happens after that, each election year, each 2 years, each 4 years, you're going to get more and more of the radical, of the mega, of the asinine, of the stupidity, of the ignorance, of the white supremacy. Let's just be real. That's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to get. So tonight we had our Texas State Representative Sean Theory joining us tonight. Unfortunately, she fell and hurt her knee, and she's getting X-rays. So tonight, our guest, our lone star, our lone star tonight is Reverend Carrie Allen. She's an ordained minister in the Presbyterian Church, the USA, a womanist and Reformed theologian and ethicist. She's a healthcare executive and chaplain. Her theology and ethics expertise focuses on the structural inequities, and implicit biases in healthcare, and her proficiency has been tapped throughout this time during the COVID pandemic to inform ethical frameworks for scarce resources and health equity in the pandemic. Prior to responding to her call to ministry, Carrie had a first career in politics, working as a political appointee at multiple levels of government, including serving as a legislative assistant in the U.S. Senate. So I'm gonna tap her about this stuff right here, with an expertise in healthcare policy. Now she uses her diverse experience to work toward health equity for Black women, originally from St. Paul, Minnesota. She has, when she's not buried in books and writing a paper and traveling back and forth from Chicago to Milwaukee, back to Chicago and over again, and spending time with family. She's enjoying watching sports, traveling, cooking, and spending time with her nieces and nephews. So let me welcome in her debut today on the What's at Stake broadcast and Black Politics Today. Let me welcome Reverend Carrie Nelson. Carrie, what's up?
Hey, thanks for having me. I didn't know I was going to be the lone person on here tonight.
The Lone Star. Well, you weren't supposed to be the Lone Star, but I know you can handle it. So you're used to, you used to running solo and being an executive and taking care of everything. But Representative Theory, I've been talking to her staff back and forth all day about some of the dynamics. And so when he called me recently, he was like, "Yeah, she's gonna have X-rays on her knee and everything else. She's not gonna be able to make it, but she wants to come back." I said, "Well, just we'll hit you back up. We'll take care of it. I'll probably talk about this and something else because by that time in Texas, who knows? Tomorrow, something else will be happening that we can talk about. So, we'll hit them up on everything we're talking about tonight on the issues that we got going. But certainly,
yeah, we'll definitely pray. We'll definitely pray for her recovery.
I told her that. I said that we'll be praying for her. That I would certainly let it be known, and that I would be praying for her as well. And he was quite appreciative of that. He's like, "Oh, well, thank you. Yes, please." I said, "Absolutely, no problem."
Yeah. So you talked about needing Jesus. We need Black Jesus in particular.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Just clarify.
Let's clarify that, right? So let's start off with just the whole thing that you have going on, the current state of healthcare right now, given the pandemic, and where we still are right now with the pandemic, and just how it's going to impact other aspects of our daily life, especially talking about Black and brown folks.
Right. So, I think where we are right now is that we are still in a pandemic, and we still have particularly Black and brown people who are disproportionately affected. That means that Black and brown people get sicker. And we're more likely to die. So that's really why it's important for folks to get vaccinated. It's really unfortunate, some of the stories that I experience in healthcare. I have had a young man who was environmental services manager in my hospital system, 26-year-old Black man with a young baby. And he decided not to get vaccinated and ended up dying. And that is unfortunately too stark a reality. His partner, after the fact, came and got vaccinated. And we had a long talk about vaccination, the importance. She talked to me a lot about fears over whether or not this, over the experience that we've had as Black people with medical experimentation, the way that we've been treated. Is this the government trying to kill us? And that's a hard position to be in and answer those questions, because it's like we have these experiences and that's part of our history and our reality.
Right.
For me, one of the things that helped, I got the Pfizer vaccine, knowing that the lead scientist for Pfizer and Moderna are both Black people, helped me to get the vaccine. So, and seeing the cost of not getting it. So we are still in a pandemic. We are still most at risk for poor outcomes. And I've known 3 Black people that have died in recent weeks. So I'm hoping that, people listening are that are not vaccinated will actually consider getting vaccinated.
What fascinates me, and also is sort of mind-boggling to me is that, and let me say first of all, condolences to the young man and his partner and child and everything. It's young people who know of our history, but don't necessarily know the dynamics of that history, in terms of recognizing that, like with Tuskegee, because that's what everyone always references, is that they were coming, actually injecting it into us, telling us it was for this, telling us it's for that, and basically doing a test. And I always use the premise, because naturally, when the whole thing started, probably every black person in America was like, "Yeah, I ain't taking that. I ain't doing that."
I was
But
with.
right, but if you remember, when we saw everyone dying, we didn't know it was black folks dying. Okay, at least I did. So
I knew right away.
I
The first
didn't.
person in Illinois was a black woman.
Okay, so I didn't know. It wasn't until a little bit later on, when they announced the numbers and showed that the primary African Americans were the ones dying, that's when that shift happened in America, where they were like, "Oh, we'll open America back up," because
Oh,
initially it was that shutdown, and I was like, "Okay." Everybody, it was like, shut down. Let's be safe. Let's do everything. And then I remember watching the news and seeing the thing come out and showing that it was like 68% of the people dying was
right.
African American. I was like,
They
oh,
knew,
oh,
and they knew because they were getting briefed. And so they knew that it was Black, Latinx, and Indigenous folks from Jump Street. And so that's
that's
exactly
true.
why
That's
they
true.
said, open back up. That's
Right.
why they're saying no masks.
Right.
That's why we see in Texas the highest rate of children that are dying that are Black and Latinx children. The highest rate of children that are dying from COVID are in Texas.
And they're still talking about, no, we're not going to mandate a mask and mandate anything
Right.
like that. And that's
Because
just
it's personal freedom and choice.
right.
So they're supposed to have the right to choose
Right.
whether or not to wear a mask.
For a mask, right? A right to choose for that, but not for everything else they're doing in Texas.
Correct.
Right. Not for everything else they're doing out there. And I just remember that, and I was telling folks that were saying I'm not getting. I'm saying, well, look, the one thing you can recognize and realize is that when folks who don't look like you
Right.
are the ones taking the
The
vaccine,
vaccine.
that lets you know that they're
It's
not
safe.
targeting you. Okay. Okay. They're not targeting you. Okay.
Right. That's
They
the
don't care
truth.
if
That's
you
the
get it.
truth.
They don't care if you get it, but they're not targeting you. They want to make sure that the other folks get it so that they can make sure they survive, right? If you don't get it, oh well, you don't get it.
Yeah, and that's why there's this proliferation of conspiracy theories, because they would just assume that we believe all that stuff, and they believe all that stuff, and that we wouldn't get vaccinated. And they are getting vaccinated. And the other thing because what I found is that not all vaccine hesitancy is created equal.
Right.
It's not just Tuskegee. It's not just Tuskegee that we have experiences today that make us hesitant to to trust the healthcare system, to trust doctors. That is structural inequities and systemic issues that aren't going to be addressed immediately. But and this has sort of unveiled that in ways that people are paying more attention to, I think, and healthcare paying more attention to. But they've always existed. So,
absolutely, that's very true.
And the thing that I do, and that the chaplains who report to me that I have them doing, is really telling stories. Like I told about Solomon, and telling stories about people that and that's going to be the best way that connect with people, because people aren't seeing the statistics and even everything we talked about that we know about. That's not how people really get motivated. So I hope that we will continue to share our personal stories with one another and encourage folks to do that. So
That would be good, because truly, it something has to be done, because right now you got the majority of the unvaccinated who are now dying and infecting
Dying.
others. They're even infecting the ones who are vaccinated. But
Right.
certainly, it's like, you know, if there were different circumstances, we could probably guarantee that there would have been a mandate for vaccination and that everyone would have to get it. But because of politics, it isn't. And I mean, when you look at the GOP, they have been consistently chipping away at the rights of us, people of color and women. And it's remarkable how they've done so, where we have, in essence, not so much with a blind eye, but a lazy eye, kind of allowed it to continue on without any real uproars. And then even more so when especially when we're talking about political parties, when Democrats get in charge, they don't go back and reverse what was done. They just kind of say, oh well, yeah, well, we're just going to do this now and move forward. And that irks me so much, Carrie. I mean, it bothers me to the nth degree, and they don't do anything to counter it, to do anything. And even like now, I'm like, why? What what is it that prevents them from saying, you've been kicking stand in my face for 15 or 20 years. Now I'm going to build this sandcastle and bury your butt. What is it? I mean, I don't understand.
So I will tell you that I think that the answer to this, I don't have a good answer as to why. I do think that the answer is that we do need to Stacey Abrams Texas and West Virginia. And that's going to be how we, when you talk about putting somebody up to win, that's how we're going to do it.
It has to be. I mean, we have to do it. And the worst part about it is that it may come to another 2016 when Black folks just decide to sit on their butt. But the catch-22 of that is that it's going to hurt us just as much.
Oh, and no, it hurts us more. We
Right.
look at look at this SCOTUS.
Yeah.
So everyone that sat on their butt in 2016 and said, so there are consequences to that.
Yes.
So, and here's my thing. Sometimes when you have a menu of bad options, you have to choose the least bad option. To me, that is not about the lesser of evils, because we see what the consequences are. So we have lived those consequences, and SCOTUS is the consequence, and that is a multi-generational consequence.
Absolutely.
Right? And so what we've seen now in Texas is we've seen a green light to continue this dehumanizing of Black bodies, Black, brown bodies. And that's because that's what it is. This is anti-healthcare, and it's anti-women for sure, and other birthing people. And it's really about, at the end of the day, this is about controlling people's bodies, which is what we have. And that's where the connection to white supremacy is. That's where the white supremacist connection is, because this goes back to the quote founding of the country, right? And killing indigenous folks, and then bringing us over here against our will. And both of those things were a way of dehumanizing, that we were not human. We weren't human beings.
Right.
And so this is just a continuation of that. And so this whole idea that somehow they're protecting children, you're not protecting children when your state has more children dying of COVID, and you're out here not allowing communities to protect and keep their children safe. That's not what you're about. So you can't be like,
where's your pro-life now?
Right, exactly. Where's your pro-life?
Right.
Right. That's not pro-life.
No.
Right. And what we know already is that, Black and actually Black and indigenous women in particular have the highest rates of mortality related to maternal and birthing person mortality. So those high numbers, we know that those will continue if we don't have legal and safe options for people to make choices about their bodies. And those will continue. And then that's going to lead to more dead people. So, hey, maybe that's the end game. That may be the end game, right? Because we see what the value of all of these quote lives that they are protecting. We see what the value of those lives are once they're out the womb.
You know, it's that's where I was going to head to with you on, is that this Texas law of blocking the abortion at 6 weeks,
Right.
and studies show that most women don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks.
Correct.
They're just finding out, so they don't have an option to have access to
healthcare.
Healthcare. And so, speaking of it from that medical science of Black and brown women, high mortality rates, even when they carry babies to term and have, full term babies and deal with it. And it was highlighted even with Serena Williams, given the extent of how much money she has and the health care she was supposed to be able to get with her financial resources, how she was like, hey, I had
I can't breathe.
I-
She
you
was
know,
saying, I
yeah.
can't breathe.
Right. All the things that she went through. Talk to us about that and how this law will even impact that further.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, what happened to Serena, what we find happens with other Black women, including women with money, with education, it doesn't mitigate the impact of having poor outcomes. And so with all of that in mind, the best people to make decisions about their health care are women and birthing people themselves. It's not white men politicians. Those are not the people who are best positioned to make decisions about healthcare. So we already have people that are dying. And what happens when you take away this healthcare right, and then you block access to healthcare, because that's what they're doing, is they're taking away healthcare. They're taking away access to safe healthcare options under the guise of being quote pro-life. So we have these higher rates of mortality. That's without taking away this option. So for women, and Texas has the highest among the highest rates of maternal and birthing person mortality. So they have the highest rates of that for Black folks, as it is. So you are putting people in a position where they're going to access healthcare anyway. That's not safe. They're going to access different ways of, different options for getting abortions that are not safe, regardless of this. And then we're going to have more dead people. And you just have to, what you said in the beginning, you have to ask the question, is that what you're trying to do? Because it doesn't make sense. The times that we've had the lowest abortion rates in this country have been under Democratic administrations. And so if their goal really is that they don't want to see abortions, then this is not an effective strategy. So then you have to really wonder, what is the goal?
Right. It's I see this law doing similar to what every year when there's a Democrat that gets elected, Republicans say, they're going to take our guns away. They're going to take our guns away. And we were talking about it, where folks run out and go buy guns and buy ammunition, right? Right now, you have everyone in Texas running, trying to find a way to have an abortion or go across state lines. You have organizations paying for them to go across state lines. All these things, because a lot of the clinics in Texas have literally just shut down,
right,
and said, well, there's nothing we can do. And my thinking is, okay, well, you're providing some, reproductive health care options and things of that nature. And I think one of the laws in Texas is that they have to do an ultrasound and do everything before they do before they perform an abortion, to see if there's any heart rhythm or heart palpitations for the fetus. And so if there is, then the doctor's required to say, oh no, I can't do anything. But um, everything that the better than I do of that I've read or seen is that they still haven't determined or decided exactly when quote unquote life begins in the fetus. And so now you're restricting a woman's ability constitutionally to choose what it is that she wants to do because you've decided that 6 weeks is the best time because she doesn't even know.
Right.
So since she doesn't know, I can stop it before she knows. And after that, she can't do anything about it.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely, um, from a political perspective, it was a really good strategy, right?
Yes.
And
And it's only
for
for
them, and
30
they waited till they had this Supreme Court, and they got their court, and this was the goal, right? This is why people voted for Trump,
right.
who so-called Republicans who didn't believe in Trump. This is why they did it, because they wanted to get us to this point. And so what we've seen, and this bill goes so far, this law goes, it's not a bill anymore, it's a law. So this law goes so far because it also, it's not just that it inhibits, people from getting health care, but it also is going to be up in everybody else's business too. So the Uber driver, right?
Right.
And so, so this goes well beyond, and we've seen how these vigilantes are out here. So to put that into law, to get them out here, I think about
Be their own
I think about intimate partner violence and how we're inviting people into to further scrutinize people that are victims of intimate partner violence with this law, and I think it's untold what the consequences are.
It really is. If you want to join the conversation, give us a call at 516-590-0143. That's 516-590-0143. Or you can hit us up on Facebook or YouTube. You can give us a comment or a question, and we'll make sure that we give it to Carrie and or myself, and we'll take care of that for you. The whole idea of this bounty, if you will, that they've put on people. I mean, one is I'm trying to figure out how they're going to actually try to enforce this, because if I see you going, I mean, I would literally have to follow you to the
Right.
clinic and everything else, or I have to be driving by the clinic, see you, then I'm going to write down a license plate number of the guy or the car that you came in, and do this and do that. I don't know what you went in there for.
Right.
Because now in order for you to get that information, that would be HIPAA violation at that point, because they won't be able to share the healthcare information with them.
They
So
can't.
now you have people suing people to be
Right.
sued and trying to figure out what's going to happen to collect $10,000 or more. And the Supreme Court has already ruled on the fact that the government can't give to private citizens the duties of what the government's supposed to have. So they ruled that, I think it was back in '74 with the Massachusetts bill about a restaurant wanting to open up a bar, and the city of Boston had given the church the basically like the first right of refusal to say that, oh no, we don't want a bar over here by the church, we don't want this, and they could basically say no, and the city would not give them a liquor license. Well, the restaurant took the city to court and the church to court, and the Supreme Court said, yeah, the city cannot mandate to private citizens their duties and responsibilities, which is enforcement. And so I'm wondering, I know that Merrick Garland has filed a lawsuit against us, but I'm wondering if because right now they're going with the unconstitutionality of access. They have not touched, or I don't believe they've touched, the issue of delegating enforcement to private citizens,
Right.
creating a bounty. Both are unconstitutional or illegal. I don't know how they're going to play it, because they're saying that this law has been written so narrowly that it doesn't matter what the Supreme Court does. And given the fact that they did nothing in the first place, What
Right.
do you think is going to be the ruling of this? Is sorry decisis going to prevail?
You know what? I don't know what the ruling is going to be. I don't have confidence in this Supreme Court.
Me either.
And so I don't have confidence in the Supreme Court, and I don't know what else what else I can say about that. And I just would point out that when you talk about a bounty, I mean, like part of the legislation that I worked on when I was in Minnesota was around stalking. And so I think about what happens if you are inviting somebody's stalker to
Right.
be in their life more, right? Then you're able to sue somebody. This happens with intimate partner violence all of the time. So you got somebody that's already following you and then is going to follow you wherever you go and suspect whatever they suspect, and then all of a sudden they've pulled you back in.
You know what? You've taken it even further, because I'm thinking now of just that intimate partnership.
Right.
So if the couple's together and she happens to get pregnant, if she says something to him and then she then tries to leave to go have an abortion, now he is coming back saying, no, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to do this. Now you have another whole bottle of wax
Right.
open up, and another can of worms open up in this whole thing, where now you're going to, I mean, people are going to be going after one another,
Right.
trying
Absolutely.
to not only collect money and sue and do this, but you're talking about violence.
Right. No, yes, I
You're
am.
talking
It's
about real violence of people
mhm.
who are in abusive relationships, get pregnant. Like, no, you're not going. You're not doing this. Where she's trying to leave out, rape and incest are not options.
Right. Right.
So she gets raped, father or brother or someone, and molests her, and now she still have to carry this baby to term.
Well, and then the rapist can follow the person to the clinic and then,
Follow through.
initiate a lawsuit
Right,
against them.
right.
Right. So then it's continued violence. So it's emotional, spiritual, physical violence, and it continues it over and over and over again. And that is you can only to continue to um propagate that kind of violence against people, you only can do that if you don't see people as human. So unless women and birthing people have full humanity, then if they're not human, then you can do all of this stuff. So these fetuses aren't even, once they're born, they're talking about unborn children, and then once they're born, they're not human either.
It's crazy. It's crazy. When you talked about the Supreme Court in 2016, you brought back the deepest angst I have about that election. When I think about everyone who was saying Merrick Garland should have a hearing, Merrick Garland should, at least get an up and down vote, what have you, what have you. Folks completely forgot about that when it came time to support Hillary. Even if they didn't like Hillary, even if they didn't want Hillary, they should have done it for the purpose of what they were trying to protect. Because what really got me was that come January 19th or 20, was it 20th or 21st? You had 500,000 women out there marching. And I'm like, okay, well, where were you on November 8th when you should have been voting to keep his butt out of office so you wouldn't have to worry about what you are concerned about now while you're out there marching? If you had done that, 87,000 people across 4 states had done that, we would have a 6-3 majority democratically as opposed
Right.
to a 6-3 majority Republican. And you don't have to worry about this discussion right here or even voting rights. You could have passed a bill, let it go to the
Right.
Supreme Court, and you would have known that you would have had this. The
Well, they wouldn't have undermined the voting rights to begin with, right?
right.
So because that happened before we even got to this conversation about passing new legislation.
Right. But the short-sightedness of policies, legislation, and thinking beyond today is what just irks me about Democrats. I mean, I look at the Senate, and especially with test tube baby Manchin and Sinema, I'm like, are they the sorriest cases for senators you ever had that we've ever seen? I mean, this is like the piss poor excuse of anything. Somebody, this dude changes his position every 10 minutes once he decides that, oh, what he's in control and he's in power, right? Nothing can
Mhm.
get passed without him. Oh well, let me change this because I don't. I mean, I've seen the African Americans in West Virginia say, yeah, well, we got a problem with this, and I hope to God they sit on their butts and don't vote for his butt because, quite frankly, like I said in my opening, I'd rather have a Republican in there that I know is wearing a sheet, right, than one that is in a closet coming out with his sheet only on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I was like, I can't do it. I'm like, right. I don't want no part of matching. I was like, say your butt in West Virginia, going back. And it's like pathetic. Just pathetic. I don't understand their whole rationale of they're not looking at the infrastructure of people. They're only looking at the infrastructure of services and roads. But who in the hell is going to build those roads and build that infrastructure? It has to be the people. There needs to be.
So I'm gonna disagree with you about it being a strategy to sit on your butt, right? Okay,
Okay.
because we saw what that strategy did, right? And so then that strategy
I
means
mean,
that you
just in West
have,
Virginia.
yeah, and that can be the difference. And that can be
That's
the
amazing
difference
difference.
in, but so and that's the difference in who the majority leader is.
But it hasn't
So
made
there
a
are
difference.
consequences to that,
I know, but it
right?
hasn't made a difference, Carrie. It hasn't made a difference. Now,
It, I
now,
You
if
know what,
if
what has passed now, I'm not going to disagree with you about Manchin. I'm not going to disagree with you about who he is, but it has made a difference, and it may feel like a marginal difference for folks because we take a step forward and two steps back, and I get that, but the difference is still it's still what ends up happening is that difference falls disproportionately on us.
well, then here's what I'll say then. Let's make sure we can win another seat so he's a non-factor. Let's
Listen,
make sure
I'm
more
for that. I'm also for like I said, I'm for focusing on these I'm for focusing on these states that we have like Georgia, where we just kind of traditionally just kind of gave up on.
right.
I'm for that, for focusing on those and turning those states around. So I'm for a proactive strategy, instead of this like non-engagement strategy.
So you don't want me to blow up everything. You don't want me to blow up everything. You just want me
I
to
don't think that blowing up everything. I mean, it was blown up. Look what has happened with everything blown up.
but it can come back even better. I was hoping or believing that in 18, when we had a real strong chance of winning the Senate, it would have come back. It didn't. It fell short. And then in 20, it barely came through. And it's like, what do you people have to have or see to make you recognize and understand that the Senate is where the power is because the courts is where the power
Right.
lies?
And let's talk about the fact that this is the Supreme Court, but it is all the other courts
Federal
as
courts,
well.
exactly.
And that's the difference
Exactly.
between Chuck Schumer and between Mitch McConnell. So
Complete difference.
yes, that
Complete.
is a big difference. And like I said earlier, sometimes when you have a menu of bad options, you're choosing the least bad option.
Not the worst of two evils.
No, the least bad option.
So let me talk to you about this because if we look at that, how do we deal with this issue in Texas and the abortion rights? Because other states are going to follow suit.
Right.
Other states are going to bring it up. Most of them are red states, but they're ultimately all going to get to that Supreme Court. How do we block and stop this before it even gets there, given the dynamics of the court and the fear we have of knowing what that court can do? What is the options or strategy that you see that can happen, that can occur, that can put enough pressure on folks to say, yeah, this is not the best option for us?
Well, I think it's a combination of people rising up the way that the way that we have been, and that continuing to do that, and thinking of every creative court strategy possible. And so, and I think hearing a lot of different, a lot of creative kind of ways of approaching it, and whatever kind of constitutionality challenge that we have to do, I think that we have to do it. And then we just have to be proactive about organizing. And then I'm going to disagree a little bit with you, what you said early in the opening about we've been organizing. So we have been to some extent, but I think that there have been a lot of people that are like, yeah, the Democrats don't do anything for us. So, but they haven't, there's no alternative. So we're just going to stay home. So there's been a lot of that going on for a long time. Now I'm from Minnesota, where we had a rash of elections in U.S. Senate races that were decided by a couple hundred votes, right? So there was Norm Coleman got elected, and then he got defeated by a few hundred votes, and the governor there, the same thing. We had, so that the difference between folks staying home
Right.
and not engaging and understanding, and so the idea that somehow sitting on your ass, I hope you have your bleeper ready, that sitting on your ass somehow is empowering and that people are going to take you seriously. I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that. From working in politics that it does not work like that. And so we do have political strength, and we showed it. We showed it in Georgia. We showed it in that special election in Alabama a few years back. So we have that. So we need to be more strategic and about using that, and understand that it took a long time to get here.
Right.
You go back to Lee Atwater days, and so they've been working on this for decades.
They have been.
And so they worked on this for decades, and then we think it's going to turn in 2 years.
Right. That's the point. That's why I get so frustrated and upset with Democrats, is that Republicans have been chipping away at the Roe v. Wade for 30 years. They have been making it a point for 30 years, and each little bit. Democrats, Judy, Judy Chu in California has had a woman's healthcare bill. I don't know the name of it, for 10 years. It's never come up for a vote. This was in 2010 when Democrats had the House and the Senate, had 60 votes in the Senate, and they didn't bring the bill up for a vote where they could have passed it, where we wouldn't even have this issue today. And now they're talking about, oh yeah, we're going to bring this up and we're going to pass this because we have to have a referendum on the Supreme Court and on Texas and women's right to choose and everything. What the hell? It's not going to go anywhere because it can't get 60 in the Senate. When we've had opportunities to do what we need to do, we didn't do it. And that's what frustrates me the most, and that we need to have a long-term strategy.
Fine.
Right. Chip away. Start at the local level and chip away so that we can get the states, because everything that's happening in those states is the gerrymandering, the redistricting, everything that's happening there is affecting what's happening up here in Washington. And people need to understand that. And I don't think they do. I think they sit around every 4 years and wait for a presidential election, or they sit around 2 years to vote for someone in Congress, but they forget about those local folks in town that are really making all the laws that are impacting them every single day.
Yeah, those local elections are really important for a lot of reasons. You named a lot of them. I think we also saw, they had these clerk elections, right? And we saw how that played out with gay marriage a few years back, and how clerks were refusing to exercise their duties in that. So this was again part of their strategy was. And then look at school boards. Look at what is going on with school boards right now. And this has been part of their strategy going back.
And election clerks. They're going to be sitting there. That's why Republicans are passing laws saying, well, their legislature, we're going to determine whether or not we're going to accept these votes or not. So now they're putting in election clerks, QAnon, mega election clerks, to then decide, oh no, we're not taking those votes. We're going to throw them out. So what remedies do we have if this is the law? You got to take it to court to then fight it and say it's unconstitutional or it's a wrong law. But the person that's already elected is in office. They're not going to like make them sit out and wait till the court battle is over. They're going to go into office. They're going to pass or do whatever damage they can do until the court decide, once it gets to the Supreme Court, oh, well, now it's going to get thrown out. And the other side is going to delay. There's not going to be any expedited calendar. It's not going to be anything. It's going to like, yeah, we're going to rush it through and get there expeditiously, unless, of course, the court will do that. But the other counsel will be like, you know what? I have another court case that day. I can't make it. I'm going to be on vacation. I can't make it. And if it's a red state and deference is given to them, you're going to be sitting there for the next 2 election cycles, waiting for that law to get to the Supreme Court to deal with. And by that time, damage is done.
Well, a lot of damage has been done, and it's going to take, I mean, that's the just being real, like keep it real. That's the reality. And so what we have in our power in order to undo it is for us to be organizing in these states where we haven't focused. It is the reality that people, their one vote does make a difference. And, we saw that in Georgia too, in close elections. So that can make a difference, that we can exercise some power. And when you keep moving that needle, and then, so it's not just like voting people in office, but then it's also holding them accountable.
Right.
And it's voting beyond just this every 4 years thing.
Right.
Like people think that somehow like one person is going to do something. And listen, and this is another thing too, right? Because we're getting to education and civics education, and just people understanding what the process is, right? So you think you're going to vote for the president and everything's going to be flipped upside down. It doesn't work like that. But people don't even know. So it's a combination of a lot of things. And the other thing is that we need, whoever has Breyer's ear needs to get in his ear, and he's going to have to retire. So we cannot have another situation like we had before with Ginsburg. He's got to go. Sorry, Breyer.
I mean, this attitude of like, you're not going to force me out. Dude, collect your pension and take your butt home.
Right.
What is this? Let us put somebody else in there that's 30 years old, like Trump did, and let him stay there for 50 years.
Right. Yep.
This is crazy. Yes, Betty, we need fresh blood. Okay. Betty says we need fresh blood. Yeah, we need fresh blood everywhere. Right, Betty? We need fresh blood everywhere. Okay. But that's it. I mean, it's those you know what I'm feeling. You're like, oh, you just want to say it. You just want to smack him. You just want to strangle him. You know, it's like Eddie Murphy. He said, I don't agree, but I'll shake the Achi boy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, because you do want to shake some folks, don't you? Yep. Mm-hmm.
Just want to
let me tell you, because I wanted to shake those folks that I will not name names on your show, but I wanted to shake those folks who were on MSNBC, Eddie Glaude, and saying, well, if you live in this state, then you should vote this way. And if you live in this state, you should vote that way. And I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And then afterwards, it's like, and then it's like, and then you're like, yeah, I forgot white gonna white. Because that's what happened in 2016.
Like, yeah. It's like, come on now. Look, let's not look at the personality and the person, but let's look at the agenda and the objectives of what we're trying to accomplish and vote on the agenda and the objectives. And like Republicans did with Trump. They didn't like Trump. They didn't want Trump, but they knew he was going to give them exactly what they needed and exactly what they wanted. So they said, fine, since he's the one, we'll take him. Right. McConnell didn't like dealing with him. What's his name? Didn't like dealing with him. Ryan
was at the start. Mm-hmm.
Right. But they did what they did so they can get what they wanted for their constituents, for their donors and everyone else, and for themselves so they can get reelected and create all this mess. And so it's like, go ahead and do it. Let me, before we get ready to go, because it was there, ask you this, because this is something where it caught me, and I was like, wow, this is deep. So I read your article. You penned an article that you had stopped attending at your church because your pastor, I don't know if it was your pastor or another pastor, but came up to you and said that they hated Black people after you preached a sermon. And
Mhm.
I was thinking about that in the context of where we're living right now, and how the reality of these policies, like you said, they're not looking at us as being human. They're not looking at us as being like someone that they care about. And to have your pastor say, "We hate Black people," after you preached a sermon on Trayvon Martin, and you ultimately like left that church or didn't go back to church, what have you. In that context, or in that realm of realization of what you have, how do we take something like that, and what message can we give to Black America and America in general about how we deal with the current state we're living in?
Yeah.
Because there's a whole bunch of folks out there, white folks, who
Right.
hate us, and
Right.
hate
They do.
us
Mhm.
not because we did anything to them. Okay, it wasn't that we did anything to them, but they hate us for who we are, or for what they think we're going to do, or for what they feel we've done, or for whatever reason. Talk to us about that, and how do we move forward, or how do we deal with something like that?
So they've been conditioned to believe that we are not fully human. That's what it is. And so they can't even look at us in other ways. And so I was serving a congregation. It wasn't the pastor, it was one of the elders in the church who said that after I preached a sermon on the Zimmerman verdict. And I called him a murderer. And I invited I was serving this white congregation because I serve in a white denomination, primarily white denomination, and invited them to see. And this is what I did. I invited them to see the humanity of Black boys, and that caused an uproar. And so I left because that to me was very telling, right? And this is not about conservative and liberal, because we see this manifest in all kinds of ways, including with liberal white folks, right? Because
Yeah.
the pastor of this church was a liberal white folk. And it was like, you can't preach a sermon like that. And I'm just like, King told us about this,
Right.
this
Right.
kind of, media, this what is the word I'm looking for? You help me out here. What did it was
Oh, when Dr. King was
um
talking about his letter in Birmingham, when he was talking about
the
the
white liberal.
the right liberal, the ones that we have to worry about the most is not the like the Republicans are the ones in us, but it's the white liberals they're right there next to us. They're
Right,
walking down the street with us. Yeah.
right. So that sort of the humanity, and uh Jimmy Baldwin talked about um how you really have to live to not just fight another day, but that the even to have that opportunity to thrive in the future. You gotta fight just to get to that point. And so that's really what I hold on to. And I also believe that my very existence is a threat. They don't want it. And so I ain't going anywhere. So I ain't going anywhere. And
Right.
I'm gonna be here, and I'm gonna keep fighting to stop you every step of the way. And if I die doing it, then that's what happens. But the fact that my very existence is something that they don't want is going to keep me here fighting for tomorrow,
Absolutely.
because that's resistance in and of itself.
Terry Robb says, "Do you think this is an American conditioning or a universal conditioning?"
Well, it's definitely it's the ethos of the United States and what the Americas as a whole were built on. So,
Right. That's what we're founded on. Yeah.
The idea of colonizing and stealing indigenous land, and then enslaving Africans to then build societies throughout the Americas. The only way that they can continue this to like continue this system that upholds their power is by seeing us as non-human, because as long as we're not human, then they can continue to use us in the different ways that they have.
And using that to the extent of blocking our ability to vote, blocking our ability to get health care, work, blocking our ability to education, blocking our ability to everything. I mean, it's this irony of we don't want to teach critical race theory, although it's not taught in
Sure.
school anyway. But we don't want to teach our kids about white supremacy because we don't want them to be upset at their history or their ancestors or who they are. We don't want them to feel bad about their race. We don't want them to feel bad about that. It's like, are you kidding me? Are you
So
serious?
I'm actually gonna agree with what Betty said, because as she just said universal, I would say anti-Blackness is actually a global phenomenon. So we do see anti-Blackness throughout the globe. It's not there's a particular distinctiveness about the Americas and how it's played out. Our histories, our shared and collective histories, have played out throughout the Americas. So the idea of yes, the critical race theory, this cracks me up every time I hear it, because these folks don't know. They don't know what critical race theory is. And half the stuff they're talking about is not critical race theory, y'all. Y'all don't, you gotta, and so, I mean, the lack of educatedness is really sad.
Right.
It's very
Right.
sad.
Completely.
They don't know what critical race theory, like, you can't say, you don't want to, you say slavery, you say enslavement, that's critical race theory, and then all my friends who are critical race theory scholars, I'm sorry. I'm
Right.
sorry, y'all.
It's a mess. So what's at stake for us, Carrie? What's at stake for us? What's at stake for Black America? What's at stake for us as a whole? Where do we go from here? What's at stake?
Yeah, so I think what's at stake is I talked a lot about about how we're viewed externally as human beings, but what's at stake from my perspective as a minister and as a theologian and ethicist is, how do we view ourselves, and do we view ourselves as fully human, and do we embrace ourselves as fully human? And for me, embracing the full humanity of ourselves means that we will continue to resist. If we go to our graves resisting that is what we've done, and that and that means that we have to participate in the process. And if you don't like the process, then you need to organize, because I haven't seen anybody organizing to the extent where you've got a new process, or organizing your candidates, right? Because they started, this is what the GOP has done, this is what the conservative movement, this is what a particular aspect of that movement has done, that now they have completely taken over. And so it's not like that can't be done. That can be done. That can be done because they did it.
Exactly.
They did it.
Right.
They did it.
But don't you think, and I was going to, let me just ask the question. Don't you think, though, because in theory, they really are homogenous, that it's easier for them to do it because it's typically and completely all the white men controlling everything that they do. Whereas when you come to us or Democrats or just Black folks in general, everyone, no, we don't necessarily want to fall in line, if you will, or we don't want to necessarily let someone else be recognized as leading or taking control or doing something, especially if we look at it in a Democratic profile. There's this big tent and everyone wants to be included, and we want to have everyone's opinion and everyone's idea. And okay, so the moderates on this side, the liberals on this side, the progressives on that side, the conservatives on this side, and everyone. But there's the one objective, but they arguing about how to get there. And it's
Mhm.
like, come on, people. It's one objective. Let's just get there. Let's go. Who cares how we get there as long as we reach the objective? That's the difference when I think between the Republicans and the Democrats, in the sense that they don't care who they use it, how they get there, as long as they get there.
Right.
Democrats are like, well, no, I don't like that. I don't want to spend $3.5 trillion to help people. I only want to spend one because I don't think we should have a deficit.
Right. Not, yeah, although we had, that
But
wasn't a
we
concern a
didn't
couple
mind
years
spending
ago.
$2 trillion to give rich people a tax break.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
So, but the key with that though is not Joe Manchin, it's Joe Manchin's constituents. So
right,
it's like, so in order for you to get Joe Manchin to do what he should for people in West Virginia, because he's not doing what's in the best interest of his own constituents.
no,
And so then it's like, well, why we need to be talking to them, right? That's why I said we need to Stacey Abrams, West Virginia, because they need to come to understand, but that takes time.
right,
They need to come to understand, what's at stake for them. What's at stake for them?
right, exactly,
But
exactly,
this is when Reverend Dr. King was assassinated, when he started making those connections between like working class white folks and
right,
Black folks,
right,
right? And so when you start asking those questions, talking about poverty and why are the realities of who are using food
right,
stamps,
right,
and
right.
because these are not people that look like you and I. These are
Who's
people
right,
that look like
right,
Joe Manchin's constituents,
right.
right?
He's in
And
the poorest
dying
state out there,
from
and dying from that poor state out there, and he doesn't want to lift the minimum wage. I
right.
mean, that right there is like there should have been an uproar in his state. So much so that his governor's like, "Oh, hell no, we want that money. Come on, come on, Joe, give me the money. I'll take it. I even pay people to go get vaccinated. Yeah, I'll
Right,
pay people to get
exactly.
vaccinated.
Yeah.
Joe, yeah, whatever, dude. You sit down. I'm a Republican governor. I'm taking this money. I want this. I want this. It's like, come on now, let's do this. I want to thank you, my dear. I really
All
appreciate
right.
you coming on the show. I
Thank
appreciate
you for
you
having me.
enlightening us, sharing with us the insights and well of all that's happening and in healthcare, and talking to us
Mhm.
about exactly what's at stake for us, especially with our for women, with this Texas law and how it's gonna could sweep across the country, um, and where we need to go, and certainly we need to organize. We need to do a whole lot and get things done, but it's going to be tough to
It's a
get
heavy lift. It's a heavy lift.
right,
It's
to get them to
Yep.
understand it's a cycle. So we got 10 years to do it because we got to work towards 2030 census and look to see what can happen. We're going to probably suffer through about 10 years again, but we got to get out there and do something. So certainly, I want to bring you back, have you back
All
again,
right.
and let you do whatever you have to do, say whatever you have to say, right? And I have my bleep ready if I need it, right? Right. So Black America,
All right.
this is the whole thing. What we have to do here, Black America, is that we have to recognize and understand that we need to do more. We have to have more. We have to go through more. We got the Delta variant that's out there, and we have ignorant, asinine governors, and people saying, "Oh, we don't need to worry about our kids." And as Reverend Allen just told us, Black kids are dying the most in the very state that they're talking about. Don't do it. Don't mask. Don't vaccinate. Don't do anything. And it used to be that if it was, in California, what California did, so California goes, so this country goes. Well, now it looks like it's Texas and Florida, because these are the two craziest states we have that are doing the most egregious things that are impacting our daily lives. They're trying to stop us from not only protecting ourselves, but protecting our children, children who cannot get vaccinated, which is the craziest and most ludicrous thing I've ever heard of someone doing as a steward over the state. And they're the ones saying, no, don't worry about it. It's okay. You choose what you want to do. But yet, when it comes to a woman's body, they're telling you you can't choose. We're choosing for you. And as I've always said, as a man, I have no right and no understanding of how to tell a woman what to do with her body, nor should I ever do so. And that's exactly what these governors are doing and these legislators are doing. And when they sit there and try to answer the question, but you're now making them carry a baby to term with rape and incest, his behind says, oh no, we have a way to protect them from rape. How in the hell are you going to protect a woman from rape? You're going to have a cop on every corner of every woman walking down the street, everywhere a man is, everywhere a rapist is? There's no way for you to do that. But that's what came out of his mouth. Greg, test tube baby Abbott. That's what came out of his mouth. It's like, are you kidding me? That's like that one senator, I think it was in Iowa, who said, oh no, the body has a way of rejecting rape. Okay, right? It has the woman's body has a way of rejecting rape, and rape wasn't so bad. These are the thinking that these people are. I mean, Reverend Allen said it. They're ignorant. They're uneducated, and quite frankly, just pure stupid and hateful. They're not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves, and they're thinking about their power and what they want, because they are definitely concerned about this nation becoming a black and brown majority. Hispanics was the number one population growth population in the 2020 census. Now they're looking at it and saying, "Oh my God, what are we going to do?" So what I'm doing is I'm praying that black folks, Democrats, we get a clue, we get an understanding, and we organize, and we get our heads out of our behinds and realize that there is no, or this is no joking matter, that we have to recognize that our voting rights, our reproductive rights for women, our school rights, this critical race theory stuff, and all this other stuff. Reverend Allen said it, from school board to county clerk to supervisor to dog catcher to water main reader to whatever. You better vote for it. You better organize for it. You better back somebody. And I think, as Betty said, we need some fresh blood. So if you're thinking about running for office, if you're thinking about organizing to do something, go out there and do it. Call us, hit us up on email, info at Black Politics Today. If you're thinking about running for office, we'll support you. We'll bring you on the show. We'll talk to you about it, whatever it is. But we have to do something, and we have to do it now. Tomorrow is not promised to us. We have to do it now. And as Carrie said, it may be a heavy lift, but we're going to have to start lifting. We don't mind lifting weights when we're in the gym. Let's lift some weight for our lives, because if we don't, it's going to cost us in the end. Until next time, I want to thank my guests again, Reverend Allen. Thank her again for joining us and being a part of the show. If anything, let us know. Come on the show again. If you got something to say, let us know about it, and we'll certainly bring you back on and have you here. But if it's social, if it's economic, or if it's political, it's Black Politics Today. Good night, everybody.